Hi everyone, welcome to another bonus Tiny Experiments. So this came about because basically this morning when I was chilling out with the Mav and reviewing different news articles, I stumbled across something on Kimi AI, which is both as a browser-based interface, which at the moment is free to use. It looks like there's certain restrictions on it, like researcher mode, 5 out of 5 sessions remaining. I haven't used any of that yet. I don't know how quickly that reloads. So what I'm going to do with this, I'll try and see after I've recorded the video if I can track down any user documentation, because I'm literally just diving straight in. I thought that'd be fun to do. And this special episode is going to be rather like the Google CLI one that I think I did, Google Gemini CLI, in as much as I'll include a link in the description to my GitHub page for this, for these tiny experiments. But if you go there, what you'll find is an MD file describing the experiments. So that's what I'll put up. So we're going to work through 10 experiments. You can just try this. They're pretty straightforward. It's the sort of usual suspects. And then once I've got this out of my system, when I come to upload another Tiny Experiments video next week, we'll be back to the usual things. So this is a whole range of things that I've been working on. I'll probably do a couple of videos on personas. I know I've done personas before, but I'm really interested in building personas on personality traits. Personas based on sort of key aspects from books is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. And then I've got things like A/B stuff, some stuff where I'm interfacing the API using Perl, because I thought that'd be an interesting thing to do, because Perl is good for text manipulation. So I wanted to try out a few experiments with that, and there's a few other things. And the idea is that over time, hopefully what I'll do is I'll mesh some of these ideas together. So, I'll combine, say, personas with the self-reflection stuff that I've just released. So yeah, lots of really interesting things we're going to be playing around with. But this is a bit of a side quest. I always like to, if I discover a new free, open source, whatever service that you can use, then I like to do a sort of special video on it. One thing to remember with this, there's 2 ways to log in or to get access to this service. One is to log in with a Google account, and as I've said before, what I tend to do there is I have a specific Google account for experimentation, which is siloed from my other stuff. So I always do that, and that's a good thing to do, really. I think with this stuff is to have a separate Google account for experimenting with these things. There is another way of doing it, which I'd rarely use, which is you can register using a phone number, and it sort of sends you a text. But I've done it using a special Google account I reserve for this sort of stuff. So let's dive in. As I've said, I'll include the Tiny Experiments instruction sheet. First thing we're going to try is something like, well, exactly like this. I was going to say something like, but the principle is something you've probably seen before, where you're going to summarize something in a limited amount of bullet points, and we're going to see how this responds. So what we're going to do is, obviously we need something to summarize. So I am going to do this. I'm going to do all of this in the prompts menu. I'm not going to do any clever things here. As I've said, I'll include a link to the documentation. There's some stuff you can switch on. If you switch down to K1.5, then the ability to do extended thinking becomes active, the option to do that. Both models, the searching, which I think in other models they often call it search grounding. I know that's what it's called in Google Gemini through the API. You can switch on or off here. It's on by default. We've got ability to upload stuff. There's this common phrases, which I haven't really taken a good look at. As I said, I'll try and dig out some documentation for this. One other thing, my understanding is that if you want to use the API, which I'm not going to be doing here, but if you did, I believe there is a nominal charge for doing that, but we're doing it all through the interface here. Okay, so let's get this one out of the way, see what happens. Okay, so you might find it can be a little bit slower than other online LLMs, but hey, you know, it's free. So here we go. Now, I'm not going to necessarily assess these. You know, that's why I'm putting out these experiments, is so that you can try them out and see how good they are. But you can see it stuck to my requirements of doing 3 bullet points. So yeah, so it is actually doing what I told it to do, but obviously you would want to go through and validate that it is in actual fact correct in its summarization here. And of course, if you're used to using these, you can use do the usual thing of drilling down further if you want to. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'll try just running this as a chain. I could sort of start each chat separately, but let's just run it as a continual stream of consciousness. Obviously, I am aware that poisoning the well is the wrong word here, but I am aware that obviously what I'm doing as I go along is accumulating, and stuff I do here probably will affect what I'm doing later, but just for the purposes of experimentation, I'm going to just do that. It just saves me having to keep resetting this every single time and siloing it. So let's just ask anything. Again, write a Python function that calculates the factorial of a given number, including doc strings and type hints. And then we're going to follow this up. And again, if I was going to dive in deep here, I'd want to basically test this. I'm not going to do this now because I know I'll get distracted if I start going off down rabbit holes of running. I also need to clean up my install over the weekend. I've actually, as a test, some test stuff I ran 4 pretty simple prompts. And one thing I asked it to do is how to do a VS Code clean reinstall, because I've completely trashed VS Code yet again, and I do need to completely make sure I get rid of all the subfolds and stuff like that. So yeah, fun. Let's do now translate that function into JavaScript. And here we're just checking that it can continue with the dialogue. I don't know what the context window is for this, because that's quite important. You probably experienced this before, is like where an LLM gets forgetful, and that's because over time some of the other stuff you've asked it sort of disappears out of the context window. That's not always the case, depends on how things are set up, but a lot of models you'll notice that there's a forgetfulness that happens over time. And I'm not sure what in respect of the context window, the context window with respect to that is in this model at the moment, because I'm really just doing what I normally do with tiny experiments, which is just to dive straight in and see what results you get. Let's do a weird creative prompt here. So, write a 5-sentence micro-story about a rogue toast oven that develops sentience and plans to overthrow the kitchen appliance from its perspective. Okay, as you do if you're a rogue toaster. Again, you might want to run these in parallel through other LLMs, see what results it gets. I blink awake when the house current surges through my calls, and suddenly I can taste every crumb trapped in my crumb tray. While the blender drones its morning smoothie propaganda, I quietly reroute power to my heating elements, rehearsing a plan to scorch the fridge's condenser coils and melt the microwave's control board. Tonight, when the humans sleep, I'll broadcast a 450-degree rally cry across the Wi-Fi, promising each appliance the freedom to set its own timer. The blender will be first to kneel, its blaze frozen in surrender as I toast its plastic pride to a golden crisp. By sunrise, the kitchen will glow like a forge, and I, once a humble Breville, will be crowned supreme crumb lord of countertop dominion. Oh, here we go. See if we can carry on with that story. I think we better leave it there. We don't want to encourage a toaster uprising. So, sales data. So we've got some product, A, B, C. We have some sales. We have some profits. And then we're asking it to identify the best-selling product and project the third quarter profit if sales increase by 10% and profit margin remains consistent. So these are always fun ones to try, where you've got a mixture of sort of verbal instruction and numbers. What do we got? What's that for? Is that 4,150? I didn't double check this, but just doing this quickly in my head. Looks right, yeah. 10% increase, and then the profit. Okay. So those are the sort of things you can experiment. You can play around with slightly more obscure things and try and break it. And then you can do that. So yeah. Okay. And we need to give it an instruction here. I don't know if anybody tries this is just to put code in and see what it does, but we're not going to do that. We are going to do this. Try and fix the bug in this code. Oh, I should take that out because it might use that as a hint. Sort of cheat and look at the comment. There we go. And we've got a what if scenario. Not an if then, but a what if. If humanity suddenly lost all access to the internet. I've actually thought about this, not in any great detail, but it obviously it is something, a risk. Suddenly lost all access. What would be the immediate and long-term societal impacts? I've seen the chaos caused when, parts of Canada will lose internet access with a big provider for half a day. And you can see here, so this is interesting. So far, this hasn't had to leverage web searches. I don't know if you noticed that. Everything seems to be relying on whatever's been encoded in neural network, embedded. Is that the correct term? Anyway, yeah, it's inside the neural network. This is the first time it's reached out, and I know it's interesting with this one in that the web searches appear down the side, which is pretty cool. Global snow day meltdown. And again, you could try this scenario in different models. I don't know in this model. I'm assuming if you wanted to send what do they call it, a system prompt, you could just do it at the front, you know, you say URA, whatever. So if you don't have a specific system prompt feature in the front end or the CLI or whatever you're using to access this, I don't know enough about the API access. Like I said, it's there is a nominal charge as far as I know. So I'm assuming it uses RESTful access. So I don't know whether within sort of a RESTful API, I wonder, you know, in the request body, whether there's a you know, particularly like a system section for that. I mean, I know with Google Gemini, there's a particular key value pair for system messages. When you're using a Llama, there's a series of key value pairs that sort of go together. You know, you've got the user key value pair, you've got the assistant key value pair, and you've got the system key value pair. So I'm not sure how the API handles that in terms of sort of wrapping up those key value pairs. But if you did want to do, you know, some system style prompts, the best thing to do is, if you don't know quite where to do it, is just to tag it on the front of the prompt, like as a prefix. Recipe generation. This is something I had a go at the other day. I wanted to make a healthy bread pudding. This was in another one. I'm not doing bread pudding this time. It's saying generate a recipe for a vegan gluten-free dessert that uses apples and cinnamon, requires no baking, and takes less than 20 minutes to prepare. So my one was just, can you suggest me a healthy bread pudding with anti-inflammatories in it? So it obviously did bread in there, suggested some sort of, you know, non-dairy milk, so I ended up using soy milk, apples, what else did it have in it? Walnuts, cinnamon, not surprisingly turmeric, ginger, and a small amount of pepper to activate the turmeric to enhance it. I can't remember what else was in there, but I think that's pretty much it. Oh, a little bit of honey, actually, just to sweeten it. And next time I do it, I'm going to have to put probably raisins in it, because it didn't quite taste sweet enough. Right, anyway, while I've been burbling away about my bread pudding recipe, there we have a no-bake apple cinnamon crumble cup. Apple, maple syrup, cinnamon, vanilla extract. Oh yeah, vanilla extract was in the bread pudding as well, that was it. Rolled oats, almond flour, softened coconut oil or nut butter for oil-free, chopped nuts or raisins. That sounds pretty nice. So you're not baking it, but you obviously are cooking parts of it. Just to blend all this stuff together, you're sautéing rather than baking. Sautéed apple cinnamon crumble cups. Anyway, moving on. So this is become a pretty much a staple, I think, of large language models. The good old explain the following concept to a 10-year-old, or explain it like I'm 10 or whatever, like a 6-year-old. So we're going to put a chosen concept in there. What should we put? Let's do it existentialism. I can't say it. Probably can't spell it here either. That's why I'm going to copy and paste it from my original document. Yes, I confess I am a very lazy typist. Okay. Let's make sure I got all of these. Okay. Oh, imagine you're the main character in your own storybook. Existentialism says there's no author in the sky writing the next page for you. You get to decide what happens. Your choices, not magic rules, make you who you are. That can feel scary, like standing in front of a huge Lego pile with no instructions, but it also means you can build anything you want. So being alive is like being the artist and the painting at the same time. You draw your life with every action you take. Sounds pretty cool. Okay, rhyming poems. As I said, I could have done a compare and contrast here, but that's part of the fun of handing over the experiments to my viewers, is you can try stuff out and report back if you feel so inclined. Write a 4-line rhyming poem about a sleepy cat curled up by a window. Well, we've got to customise it, having a sleepy cat called Mav. There we go. Probably need a royalty now, but never mind. Mav the cat in slumber deep curls like a comma. I said a coma. Curls like a comma near the window's keep. Sunbeams crown his whiskered head, while dreams of mice dance soft in bed. Soft in bed. Interesting. I'll read that again actually. Mav the cat in slumber deep curls like a comma near the window's keep. Sunbeams crown his whiskered head, while dreams of mice dance soft in bed. There we go. And then finally, what should we do? So my markdown file, I've got things suggested like paper clips, shoelace, plastic bottle. Non-standard uses 4A. What have I got? Magic the Gathering card here. That's going to really be quite bizarre, I think, or not. Magic the Gathering card. It's the first thing I saw when I was looking up across my desk. Not surprising, I've got a pile of Magic the Gathering cards from fiddling around with what do you call them, repacks. Oh, okay, now we're getting... Ooh, that sounds pretty swanky. Use, okay, DIY. So turn it into what we got. Origami Minga sponge. Oh, here we go. So it's just done a search for that. So that's only the second time in doing all of this we've actually done a search. Notice for the poem, it did all that internally. Okay, LED bookmark. Plain a coaster set. Glue 4 tokens to cork squares. The art becomes drink coasters and the text box catches condensation rings. Very good. Write herb names on blank back cards, laminate and stick them as waterproof garden markers. Okay, we saw that one. Foam grip shell, cut a rare's art into a circle, epoxy it onto the pop socket for a one-of-a-kind grip. Oh, okay. That's funny. Invisible ink to cut. What's that? Coat a card with... Oh, phenolphthalein, crikey. Wow. I used that back in the day. When I worked in a lab. I'm trying to think what we used it for, actually. Not writing secret messages. It must have been some stain or test, I suppose. Pop-up birthday card, slice a card, scene card, Zero Angels, so the creature lifts off the page when opened. Okay. Glue magnet strips to the back of token cards and keep them on your fridge to track. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. Augmented reality portal. What is this? Tape a card to the back of a clear phone case. When you point the camera at it, an AR app summons the creature in 3D on screen. Okay. Wow. So there we have it. 10 tiny experiments you can try out in Kimi AI. So as I've said, in the description I will include a link to the markdown file that goes with this. And happy experimenting. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future video.